Live from New York City, it's the Gary Null Show. And now, your host, Gary Null.
Hi, I'm Gary Null. Always a pleasure to be able to share positive insights on how to live a longer and healthier life. Today, we begin our program with a study from Harvard Medical School and the University of Tromsø in Norway. It's a simple issue. It's vitamin D. But here's what's important about this. We know for certain that the longer the telomeres, that's the end caps of chromosomes, and the longer they're held and bound together, much like the end of your shoelace, that little plastic tip, when that becomes unraveled, then it's hard to lace your shoes. Same with your cells, meaning that when those telomeres unravel and shorten, the chromosomes are exposed and they begin to be damaged, and ultimately they die. Senescence. Hence, the takeaway message is simple. The longer the telomeres, the longer you live, or that particular organ lives. Now, depending upon our lifestyle, we can have one organ that's fine and another organ that's not. I'll give you a good example of this. Many of us are long-distance runners, and we train to do marathons, ultramarathons, 30K, 50K races. And it takes a lot of wear and tear on the body. None of that is healthy. Now, so why would I advocate of healthy choices? Why would I advocate for doing these? Because in life, it's important that at some point we challenge ourselves in ways that we have not before. If for nothing else, to develop a new sense of discipline and to say, okay, I'm at a certain age, I have certain goals, and one of those is how far can I push myself within reason and benefit from it? What lessons will I learn? And that's one of the reasons that I believe in athleticism. Now, for the average person, training 4 miles a day, power walking, jogging would be terrific. Biking 10 to 20 miles a day in resistance gear, so it's hard, that's terrific. Doing about a half hour of resistance exercises, sit-ups, push-ups, lifting dumbbells, barbells, terrific. But going beyond 4 miles a day, you're entering a different zone. You are putting stress upon different telomeres in the body, different muscles in the body. And as a result, you have a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you're going to lower your pulse rate. In most cases, let's say it's normally 75 beats per minute. If you can get it down to 60, you've added years onto your life, more than a decade, to the heart. If you don't smoke, you've added years onto your lungs and your heart. If you don't drink, you've added years onto your liver and kidneys, your brain. If you're constantly challenging your brain, you're seeking ways to stimulate critical thinking. Maybe you like to go to the opera, which is very important because not only do we enjoy the opera, but it's like sitting in on a master chess game. You know, if you're playing it, you're having to move many moves in advance in your mind. It challenges you. It causes your brain to stay younger. Critical thinking does that. Reading complex material does that. Learning a new language does it. Playing an instrument does it. But also deep meditation does it as well. So the key is in life, use to the fullest all of your resources. Take advantage of that which challenges you. When my buddy, we trained for over 10 years together every day, Franco Pantone, outstanding race walking coach, one of the best in America, and one of the best athletes, power walking. I mean, he's terrific, won hundreds of races. And one day we were training for the Los Angeles Marathon, the first Los Angeles Marathon. And we knew all the best race walkers were going to be there. And Marianne Torellis, I mean, these are legends within the field. But we also knew that the Mexican team was coming up, and they train at 5,000 feet altitude. So they may have a shorter stature, but their legs move faster. It's like, if you watch them, it's like watching an old-fashioned egg beater where you turn it and these blades turn around. That's how their legs look. And so we said, okay, we've got to challenge ourselves. We have to get out of any comfort zone. So every morning when we go into Central Park, we'd run for about 12 miles. But in the running, we would find what are called rabbits. These are people, they're just as skinny as can be. They look like little reeds. Maybe a guy weighs 120 pounds, and for him, that's heavy. But these guys are fast. And there'd be a couple running together, maybe at a 4-minute pace. And Franco and I are trying to stay behind them for as long as we can, maybe 4:50 to 5-minute, 5:10 pace. And it really hurt. It wasn't easy. But then you see, well, what's the problem? Well, your lungs are the problem. So then we run up 25 flights of stairs 25 times. That then helps lung capacity. So everything we could do to compensate, we did. As a result, I won a gold, and I think Franco won a bronze. But we always trained with people who were faster, always. In the process, when we would take our blood pressure and pulse rate, it was generally around 49 to 50 beats per minute. Now, that's rather ideal. Blood pressure was normal low, and that's ideal. And a healthy diet kept the arteries clean, and all the different vegetables and all the green vegetables in particular, and vitamin C, kept the blood naturally thin, less likelihood of a clot. So it didn't make you immune from a problem. It made you less susceptible. But the key was now we could run with ease and be faster than we were before because we went through that challenge yourself. And I believe in life. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that for those of us who were training beyond what was considered normal, our blood pressure was better, our heart rate was better, our muscles, abs, you could see, no excess body fat, clarity of thinking, good feelings because of the endorphins that are secreted like a natural opiate when you run. And that's why it's very important to get out there and do your aerobic, because you can have just a better sense of well-being, lighter, for probably the next 6 to 8 hours. If you do that twice a day, almost your entire day is taken up with feeling much better versus being sedentary. Now, that only works for a period of time. And then what you do, you prematurely age those muscles. Now, your heart's not prematurely aged. And if you've taken your vitamin C and quercetin, coenzyme Q10, and calcium, magnesium, and other nutrients, L-carnitine, vitamin E and their tocotrienols, and hawthorn berry, you've strengthened your heart. But the muscles, not so much. And here's what we found. That most athletes who do not compensate for the stress and premature aging of their muscles end up at some point, probably after 10, even 15 years, they can't go out and do the same run. They might be able to jog, but they can't race because they didn't compensate. So I call it the laws of compensation. To the degree that anything is happening in your life that creates an imbalance, you have to compensate by rebalancing it. And therefore, it makes a huge difference. That's why I told all my friends, nurses and physicians working in hospital during COVID, make sure that every day you build up your immune system. And that way, if you are infected, you're less likely to get as sick, less likely to be hospitalized, and less likely to die. And that is what the actual science showed. So the key is compensation. So when you are wanting to live a longer life, compensate by taking vitamin D, because according to the study from Harvard Medical School and the University of Tremose, it lengthens the telomeres, and the longer the telomeres, the longer the life. Now, I am still a competitive racer. I just did this Florida State Championship, set a record in the 2-mile, and took the gold in the 3,000 meter. So I'm still competing. The difference is I'm not doing marathons now. I've done 84 marathons. I've done over 500 races, competitive races. So I don't have to push my body to that level. So I can train under 6 miles a day and be in great shape and be competitive. And because of my diet and supplementation, stretching, and taking my body's chemistry on a regular basis, I'm actually deaccelerating the aging process, meaning I'm slowing down the aging process. Well, if you slow down the aging process, what else are you slowing down? The diseases of premature aging. So therefore, again, it does not make you immune. It makes you less susceptible, big time less susceptible. So it's all about being able to pay attention to your health. Now, I check my blood pressure 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I check my pulse just to make sure it's even. Because stress can cause a disruption in the electrical charge to your heart. Therefore, people are not even aware that their heart is not beating the way it should. And so this way, you're aware that how to deal with stress. And so, okay, there's something stressful I have to deal with. I don't want to stress myself and disrupt my biochemistry, especially the heart in the process. So when you know you're facing stressful situations, take a break, take a respite, and meditate. Bring yourself down, deep breathing. Put on a soothing CD. Maybe I happen to like Rainfall on a Tin Roof. And it just chills you out instantly. It's great for you. Helps you go to sleep if you're having trouble sleeping. But the more relaxed you are, the healthier biochemistry inside. So anyhow, this Harvard study showed that by increasing your vitamin D, you end up with longer telomeres. And this is a marker of biological aging. In fact, I won't go into the chemistry as much, but for every 10 nmol increase in levels of vitamin D3, that's the active storage form of the vitamin, it was associated with a longer telomere in leukocytes in middle-aged adults. And this was from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. And it was published in the Journal of Nutrition. So just showing one more way, one single vitamin can help you live a longer life. And yet we're deficient in it as a society. And that's not good. Next up is a study from the University of Preto in Brazil. It says that acai pulp can improve antioxidant defense and protect your arteries. Now, we know that pomegranate protects your arteries. That's why eating pomegranates or taking the concentrate sugar-free or the juice sugar-free is really good for your heart and good for the epithelium, the inner lining of your arteries and your veins. And you don't want those prematurely aged because that's where clotting occurs, blockages occur that can increase your blood pressure as well. So supplementing your diet, especially healthy women, with the acai pulp improves your antioxidants, but it decreases the markers for oxidative stress. For example, when you go out, let's just say you go for a 6-mile light run, that's good for you. But it also is bad for you because you've created extra oxidative stress. The inhaling and exhaling when breathing, the exchange of oxygen for carbon dioxide coming out, that creates oxidative stress. That oxidative stress creates free radicals. Free radicals can attack cells. So we have about 10 to 12,000 gene alterations in every cell in the body per day. And much of that is because of oxidative stress. So, according to the article published in Clinical Nutrition, if you're taking just one item, you're able to reduce the oxidative stress. That means you're reducing free radicals. And that helps protect against the formation of plaques in arteries. And it's not a lot. It's like 200 grams per day. And that's about around 6 ounces a day. So that's important. Now, also, what if before you went off that run, you took 100 milligrams of coenzyme Q10, 400 milligrams or units of vitamin E, and took 200 of tocotrienols? How about taking 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 1,000 milligrams of quercetin? And how about taking some cayenne, 1 capsule of high heat unit cayenne? How about taking 300 milligrams or have a glass of coconut water and have 400 milligrams of potassium? How about taking some calcium magnesium? well, then you've reduced your oxidative stress tremendously, because as you're creating it, the body has so many antioxidants that are trapping those free radicals. Now, when you finish your workout, do it again. Now, your compensation before and after have allowed you the benefit of all the physical activity in the body, but also without the premature aging. Hence the rules of compensation. So let's help our arteries. Let's help them stay healthy. And that one fruit does it. And it reduces the pro-inflammatory cytokines while restoring functional cellular antioxidant status. And just eating a normal diet will not do it. It's spelled several ways. It's pronounced several ways. S-E-I, S-I, A-C-A-I. I repeat, A-C-A-I. Okay? When I was down in South America, they pronounce it one way. We pronounce it a different way. And by the way, how to sleep better without meds? Soak in more daylight outdoors, even if it's cloudy. University of Washington. It's a popular question among Americans because they're so tired. In fact, they have to artificially stimulate their energy, the ACT, adenosine triphosphate, in the morning with coffee. That's not healthy. That's not good. So how can you sleep better without turning to the meds? The answer could be something as simple as getting outside. Getting outside for at least a little while and soaking in some daylight light, even if it's cloudy, can help us sleep soundly at night. That's the new research, University of Washington. And they measured sleep and in undergrad students and observed they tend to fall asleep especially late and wake up later in the morning during winter. And that's when we have the fewest amount of hours of sunlight. So for those of you living where there's plenty of sunlight, Nevada, California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, then get sunlight. Nevada, especially, get sunlight each day. Okay? Make a difference when you're sleeping at night because it impacts your circadian rhythms. And that's good. Also today, a study, and this one's from Wake Forest University School of Medicine, it shows that alcohol consumption in any amount is linked to acceleration of Alzheimer's disease. Now, we all know that Alzheimer's disease is the most common form of dementia, accounting for 60 to 80% of dementia cases. And by the way, I think most people aware that Bruce Willis, the actor, is now suffering from a form of dementia. There's nothing they can do for him. There's no medicine that can manifest, but that doesn't mean he can't be helped. I've held off showing a particular film. You've never seen this. You've never heard the people before. It was from the end of one of the anti-aging sessions. And I asked Roland to fly in just in case we had something, unusual happen in a good way that we could share that message. After all, the rule was this. If I can slow down my aging process, if I can be even faster today than I was 5 years ago, and that was shown. I looked at my results from 5 years ago at the 3,000, and I looked at 2 mile, and I looked at this time, huge difference. Well, how'd that happen? Paying attention to what my body needs at the cellular level, the DNA level. And to prove it, we had a DNA methylation test taken. Now, you can't get this test. It's not available. But because we were doing a study, and because the positive results of 4 previous studies, one of the scientists involved suggested that why don't we use it to see what would happen in the first study of its kind, multidimensional study. And so they agreed to it, and we did. And it showed that we were able overall to reduce our aging, increase our lifespan by 2.2 years with what amounted to just 2 weeks of work. Now, the study lasted 3 months, but the intense part was the first 2 weeks. That's when everything was being done according to a schedule. Everybody was being monitored. Everyone was on campus. But when people go home, they don't all stick to the protocols, unfortunately. But we proved it. Now, it's like saying, well, you can't climb Mount Everest, and then Hillary does it, and Sherpas before him, and, well, it can be. And UFOs don't exist. 20,000 or a million or just weather balloons, but then one exists. If they exist, all you have to do is prove something once. And then the key is, can you duplicate it? The answer is yes. So when we were filming people on the very last day, and they volunteered, we took them to the theater, and I'm not going to go into all of them except one. And one of these was a person who had very advanced Alzheimer's, far beyond what Bruce Willis is suffering from. And this person, when he started the protocol, he had the dead look. He just looked down, couldn't talk, couldn't answer a question, was unaware of his environment. His wife had to do everything for him, brush his teeth, comb his hair, take him to the bathroom, everything, even put food in his mouth. That's not what we found at the end. In his own words, you're seeing him and his wife, and you're seeing what he's doing. It was as if he didn't have Alzheimer's, no dementia. How's that possible? But it is possible because it happened. No different than about 13 years ago, I did the first study on brain aging, and we invited people who had medically verifiable conditions. They had to have a letter from their doctor showing their diagnosis, their state of disease, and Dr. Martin Feldman, a board-certified neurologist and certified in psychiatry, he reviewed all of them. He selected the people, saying these are legitimate. Because you see, I learned a long time ago, a newspaper, the New York Post, that shouldn't surprise anyone, said they want to do a story on me. And I said, no, you don't want to do a story. You want to do something to distract from what I'm doing. That's fine. That I expect. And, oh, no. I said, well, come down. I'm doing a lecture. And you can see what I do. It was the Roosevelt Hotel. Maybe some of you were there. If any of you were, I'd like to hear from you. Call in, 888-874-4888. There were thousands of people there in the Grand Ballroom. And I got up and I said, how many people are medical doctors? All these hands went up. Nurses' hands went up. Nutritionists, a lot of people. I said, how many people have been benefited from the information in clinical studies or health support groups or personal counseling? Every hand went up. And I said, so how many people in here had AIDS, no longer have it? Hands went up. How many people in here had advanced disease, no longer have that? Hands went up. And so I turned to the reporter and I said, now, you've got thousands of people here. Talk to them. Ask them for their story. Ask them for proof. They had the medical records. Can they verify this? And this reporter didn't ask a single person, got up and left. Oh, but they did have an expert, a quackbuster, someone I've never met, never spoken with, who knew everything, who has no background or qualifications in any of this. In fact, under oath in a case court that he lost, and boy, did he get eviscerated by that as being not an expert in any of this. He's the one that the establishment uses to attack anything they're fearful might be competition. But that's simply the way it is. And it'll stay that way because no one's going to give up $4 trillion a year. That's how much they make off disease. How much they make off health? Very little. You're a very valued asset when they can bill you high and offer you little. In any case, so here's a situation where all these people were in a class and one of them got up, and we film every person now, and that because we want proof before and after. This person's name was Thomas, 70-year-old African-American engineer. His hands were shaking like this, Parkinson's. And he couldn't really talk either. His words weren't coming out. And at the end of the study, which was 16 months, he got up, hands steady as a rock, perfectly articulate, energy back, focus back. He was not able to feed himself because he couldn't hold a fork, and everything was normal. But he said there was something not normal, and it concerned him. I said, what's that? He said, I have now what I call an acute memory. What do you mean? Ask me a question. Okay, what year did you go to high school? Told me. How many people were in your class? He told me, 22. Can you remember any of their names? He remembered first and last name of every single student. His entire memory of his whole life came back. That meant that the process, the protocols over that period of time rebuilt dendrites, rebuilt synaptic connections. In fact, we helped rejuvenate his brain. He was one of 37 people, including completely reversed Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Let's see, we also had myasthenia gravis, multiple sclerosis. I mean, all these things we just reversed. Yet you would never know that. Couldn't get it peer reviewed. Nobody wanted to publish it. They wouldn't give us a reason. They just don't open that door. So I just want you to know that, yeah, I'm going to show you a film. It's 22 minutes long. And we had the medical documentation for every one of these people who volunteered, uncoached, just to come in, sit down, and tell their story, before and after. And then you'll see what I've been dealing with my whole career. So will the establishment acknowledge this? No. Will it work with us to learn? Open door policy? No. 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 It's not going to happen. And that's why medicine cannot be reformed. It will stay as bad as it is or as good as it is. In emergency medicine, it's terrific. In chronic care, it fails miserably and kills people. It's not going to change. So anyhow, they'll go ahead. But anyone in this audience knows any way of reaching Bruce Willis, just tell Bruce, it doesn't have to be the end, but it's up to him and those around him making decisions for him of what they want to do. Now, this is the latest from Wake Forest University School of Medicine, Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia that we know. And they're saying that that it shows that even modest amounts of alcohol can accelerate brain atrophy. Modest amounts, okay? That means you're going to lose your brain cells. That means you're going to end up with increasing amyloid plaques, which are the accumulation of toxic proteins in the dementia brain. So, listen to what I'm saying. There is no such thing as a safe amount of alcohol. All alcohol in any quantity is going to destroy cells in the body, brain. And this is one of the reasons we have so many people who end up with wondering why they lost their memory. And this was published in the Neurobiology of Disease journal. So for those of you who think, let's socially drink, not a wise choice. All right? Well, it won't hurt. Yeah, it will. You just won't realize. And by the way, if someone says, well, there's no such thing as nutrients helping improve cognitive performance, that's all nonsense. You're wrong, as always, and forever, on everything when it comes to anything natural and non-toxic. I would say to the doctor who says, and a doctor told me this recently when I was advocating for a patient. So I sent this person a copy of Florida State University showing that nutritional supplements improve cognitive performance in older adults. Declines in the underlying brain skills needed to think and remember and learn. That's normal for the prematurely aging. It is not normal for normal aging. In fact, this cognitive decline is a fact of life for most older adults because most older adults, one, lack the discipline, and two, to continue onto a healthy lifestyle. Small percentage do, but the majority don't. And remember, by the time you hit a certain age, you're not that age. You're not 40. You're 80. You're not 50. You're 100 biologically because of all those things you chose to do because you didn't think about the consequences. Well, there is a consequence. In fact, this cognitive decline is manifest in the vast majority of all Americans. Now, University of South Florida study reports that a formula of nutrients high in antioxidants and other natural components help to boost the speed at which the brain of older individuals processed information. And you're talking about vitamin D3 and amino acids, including carnosine, C-A-R-N-O-S-I-N-E, and it made a difference. It was a 2-month study. So yeah, we have a lot of studies, thousands of studies in the peer-reviewed literature on PubMed showing the role of nutrients in slowing down the aging process, including of the brain, and also how to revive the cells that are no longer going to be active for you. So we have science and we have a human experience on our side, and you have dogma and prejudice on your side. You'll win, however, because you control the establishment. I'm Gary Null. Thank you for watching this, and we're going to take a break and come back and go after a lot of interesting topics. Always go to GaryNull.com. If for no other reason, go to the essays or my commentaries, because I take on all these issues. I take on, in a critical way, critical mass theory. I take on the woke. I take on the imbeciles who are running our equity programs. I take them all on. 57 commentaries I did last year alone. That was more than one per week. I'm going to do the same this year. All right, back in a moment.
Are you tired of closed-minded programming? Well, look no further than PRN.Live, the home for progressive voices.